Hello to you all and welcome to another BioWar Devlog episode. It has been a little while, I know, but I come today with exciting news, new artwork and even a new character for you all. Now, preparation for this video has been a little difficult, which I will go into in a bit further detail at the end. But, at long last, I can introduce a character I have been keeping my mouth shut about for a while. Julia Argyleson. I will be taking a bit more of a serious tone for this video since there's only so many jokes I can make before my psychiatrist runs out of notepaper. But, with Julia, we are also diving into the next of our stories, Seas of Glory. Right, enough waffle. Let's get into it. Seas of Glory is set a little before Book 1, following the perspective of Captain Julia Argyleson on board the venerable HMS Belfast. Yes, that Belfast. With the war against the bioweapons raging on and consuming tons upon tons of ammunition and supplies every day, naval convoys of supplies has become even more vital than before. The very survival of humanity is decided on how and when supplies reach them, and the Royal Navy continues to step up to the task. Seas of Glory follows Julia on one such mission, acting as the lead vessel of a convoy heading for the Soviet Union and the trials that come with it. Of course, being one of my books, we all know that this mission isn't exactly going to go smoothly. But how such a simple task of sailing from here to here is a problem, you'll have to wait to find out. Julia, though not present in Book 1, does reappear throughout the series, and may yet get another series instalment of her own. Right, yes, okay, I know what you're looking for. Fine. Humans and non-humans, I give you Julia Argyleson. Here she is. Once again, artwork has been done by the incredible Captain Spades and the also incredible Jasper to bring this feisty young officer to life. And it's time we dive into her story a little more, for better or for worse. Now, our lovely Julia here hasn't had the greatest of times since joining the Royal Navy, but her bad luck didn't simply materialise at birth. Both Julia's father and grandfather were Royal Navy men, having served in both World Wars. Her grandfather was aboard HMS Iron Duke during the Battle of Jutland, her father participating in the Dunkirk evacuations. It was only natural then that Julia would continue the legacy of Argylesons in the Navy, signing up as soon as Parliament signed the Conscription of Women Bill in 1945. On her first assignment, Julia became a sailor on board a Royal Navy destroyer, which is where things started to go wrong. In early 1946, Julia's destroyer was infected by a bioweapon torpedo. From the engine room and outward, the crew slowly turned into bio-soldiers, killing and infecting their comrades until the entire vessel was entirely infested. Julia's quick thinking and insistence on being armed at all times ensured that she was the only survivor, though not without consequences. When Julia was found barricaded in on the bridge of her ship, rifle in hand and covered in blood, the mutation process had already been completed. Fast forward a year, and Julia had her own command, eventually being transferred to serve on board HMS Belfast in order to further her career. In an unusual and practically unheard of move, partially due to an oversight from the Admiralty, the previous captain had not been promoted or transferred, leading to a strange joint command scenario where both operated as the ship's decision makers. And this is where our story picks up with Julia, her first day in joint command with her new captain and new ship. HMS Belfast. it's time for the ship herself. Now, I'll be talking the same tripe regardless of what shows on screen, but if you see a bunch of really high quality footage, that means I was successful in my attempts to contact the Imperial War Museum and convince them to let me use their stuff. If you see almost exclusively footage from games and such, then you know my email is still in a pile of unread requests. Now, I don't want anyone to get mad at the Imperial War Museum for not talking to me. I probably wouldn't talk to me either if I could help it. And I'm sure most of you watching are here because I've made you anyway. Right, HMS Belfast. Isn't she a beauty? More specifically, she is a town-class light cruiser, seeing action in some of the most crucial engagements in the European naval theatre, in real life as well as in my books. HMS Belfast was the first Royal Navy ship to be named after the capital city of Northern Ireland, having a terrific start to her career by striking a German sea mine in November of 1939. Way to go, HMS Belfast. Credit to her determination, however, the Belfast survived. Spending 2 years in repairs, she came back ready and raring to go. A bit like me when I've been off work with a cold. Anyway, in 1943 she was assigned to escort duties, taking a big old trek up to the Soviet Union, along with the supply ships she was tasked to protect. She also assisted in sinking the Scharnhorst, and in 1944 took part in Operation Overlord and the D-Day invasion. And this is where the timeline begins to deviate from reality. From D-Day onward, Belfast continued to serve in the European theatre, returning to her escort duties to the Soviet Union right up until the bioweapons began to emerge in 1945. Having undergone yet another refit, which we will go into later, Belfast returned to Normandy to act as part of the naval anti-air blockade. You see, when the bioweapons were released, the situation in the air above France became a little more difficult for the Allies. Air corridors between France and England needed to be kept open for supplies and materials, and the US and Royal Navy were tasked with using their anti-aircraft weapons to deter any flying creatures from getting in the way. When the Royal Navy were able to bring more ships back from the now stabilised Mediterranean, HMS Belfast was handed back over to her escort duties. Now for the technical bit. HMS Belfast, the complicated stuff. Alrighty, so HMS Belfast has had a few refits in her time, even before we get to those in my books, so let's break down what happens. The modernisations made in 1955 for the purposes of BioWar were made much earlier for different reasons. Firstly, the fully enclosed two-tier bridge was still designed for protection against nuclear, chemical and biological threats. With consistent arguments between the British and the American governments regarding the use of nuclear weapons, the British faced the constant threat of America deploying their atomic arsenal by surprise, without telling the British. Thus, efforts were made to overhaul the fleet and ensure that their crews could continue to operate and return home in an NBC environment. Additionally, the replacement of wooden decking, remote control of the boilers, better air filtration systems and crew protection all served a similar function, as well as providing better protection against bioweapon threats. Armament-wise, Belfast was quickly becoming an anti-aircraft cruiser. With new fire control systems, twin 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft mounts and an upgrade to the 4-inch mounts and guns, Belfast was a deadly match for anything the bioweapons could throw at her. Radars and fire control were also completely overhauled, allowing the ship to see further and hit what it saw with better accuracy than ever before. I may go on about this a bit more at a later date, but we've got some other bits to cover first. Why do we need Seas of Glory? It's a good question. Put simply, we have had perspectives from the land and air so far in BioWar, leaving only the naval aspect of warfare without its own story. Now, some of the more realistically minded among you may be wondering if completion was really my overall goal and not just, well, you know, money. Well, I have a few things to say about that too. And there's a surprise. At the moment, I am making absolutely nothing out of my books. In fact, sometimes I even make a loss on the occasions I've commissioned an artist or books for research. So, while I do love money, that is a whole separate side piece compared to my books. I want to try my best to incorporate a little bit of each armed forces branch in my books and, to an extent, a little of civilian life to really give you all the, well, you know, the full picture of BioWar. And I can't do that without our Navy lot. Alrighty, now it's time to give everyone else free advertising for all of you viewers. There has been plenty to inspire this book, though a fair few possibly more unexpected than others. Now, I know there's been a few series recently covering the war, but rather controversially, I'm not much of a TV person anymore. I cannot survive on such simple morsels anymore. I am a man of class, of culture. All of this is disputed. And all of the content I consume these days must... Anyway, HMS Belfast appears in 2 games as far as I'm aware of, War Thunder and World of Warships. I don't play them often, so I can't really say if they were their inspiration or not. So, a bigger influence on my writing was one particular scene from War of the Worlds. Something that had a big thing made of it in both the book and the musical. Yet somehow not the absolute burning trash heap that was the BBC series. I get very passionate about this, okay, just let me have this one. Music-wise, you won't be surprised that Battlefield 1 and War Thunder's naval soundtracks have both played a massive part in this, and some of which you've heard playing in this video, maybe, if I've remembered to edit it in. As for Julia herself, well, she's a bit different. You see, Julia's personality and style is more of an amalgamation of real people I know, rather than other fictional characters, so it's a little more difficult to describe where she came from. And Julia is feisty, hot-headed and very short-fused, but makes up for this with her quick thinking and sound logic when in battle. Most of her personality traits have been taken from the aforementioned people and then slightly concentrated to create her personality, and it's a method that I feel has worked quite well. Alright, news roundup. Yes, now I know I've been talking for quite a while now, so let's wrap things up with some news, updates and, well, not a Q&A, clearly. Firstly, BioWar 85 is finished. So this is a massive step for me, as we discussed last time. This means part 1 of the series is ready for editing. This is mostly being done all by myself, so please no getting stroppy when this takes a while. I'm just a little autistic officer worker trying to balance work, home and book, so yeah, don't expect it for a while. Anyway, for the time being, I have given up on making a timeline for the series and any sort of plan on what videos are coming next. And there's a few good reasons for this. The first is that, naturally, things change. Events change dates. New parts are added to the earlier parts of the timeline, and some new events get added into the middle. Thus, it's quite hard to make a timeline without it changing the following day. Now, with the order of videos, that's also an odd one. Some of my videos have extra content in, and that can take a lot of time to get ready. Some of them require art from artists, music in the case of one planned video, and many other bits and pieces. I will generally stick to a chronological order for the videos, so I won't be skipping ahead too much. But on occasion I may have to delay a video or talk about something else one month to give my little art gremlins a chance to do their thing. I'm going to be exclusively referring to them as art gremlins now, sorry. Speaking of which, yes, we have art. I'll give you a quick art show now, and then we can talk about what's coming up next. Okay, what's next? Content. I know, shock horror. Anyway, yes, we've got plenty coming up, including what's coming in the next books, some more characters, I'm looking at you, Walter, and maybe an update on that song. I've been working with a very helpful chap who's offered to do the vocals recently, and we may have this soon, along with some more work from Jasper, which I know for a fact has you all blown away with each of their pieces. Anyway, I think that's about it for this month. You know where I am and how to reach me if you do have any questions. So for now, I will say goodbye and... there was something else. Hang on. Let me just... somewhere around here. Hang on, give me a sec. Come on, I'm sure I'll have to note somewhere around here. Where is it? Yes. There we go.